morning. Today is December 12th. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the significance of now, and I don't mean that in some sort of metaphysical, etheric, spiritual way of the now, although that's important. I want to talk literally about what is at our disposal, what is transpiring here in the present, and what tools, specifically one tool, do we have access to that makes now a very, very important time. So I've spoken briefly in the past about the potential for something called the Great Solar Flash, and how there seems to be a couple different camps out there in the groups of those that are waking up or who have awakened regarding the critical mass, the amount of people required to make that big push, to have that massive change. And I'm still on the fence about it all. I do think there's good reason to believe we exist in a time that is significantly different in like a relative linear measurement from years and years in the past. And what I mean by that is, if you were to say your life is 100 years long, do you believe this section of 100 years, the one that you exist in, will produce more change relative to the groups of 100 years before it? And that is what gives me some sort of inclination that we do in fact live in a particularly special time, which means we may see a point of inflection of change here in humanity unlike anything we've seen in the last 12,000 years. 12,000 years, of course, would be referring to the last great cataclysmic event recorded in the annals of pretty much every other early civilization's storytelling. So, all that to be said, what makes now so special? The single greatest tool, arguably, that we have discovered or bestowed upon ourselves, however you want to look at it, is the internet. Why is the internet so special? I believe the internet is the single greatest tool because it allows us the ability to access information virtually simultaneous or instant all around the world for anyone that has a connection. And at this point, that's just a perfunctory function as long as someone has the electrical equipment to connect to the internet, and we've seen billions come along in the last decade. The problem is that most people are not taking advantage of such a great tool. Think about what you had to do to get information just 20 years ago. If you're my age, in your 30s, and you were writing reports, you had to go to a library, check out books. There was a card catalog system. Granted, a lot of people had written books, published them, and they were now in public libraries. But think of how much more work was involved just to access information. Now it's all, and I realize I am combining the idea of databases with the accessibility of the internet. We're just going to hinge those two concepts together as the accessibility of knowledge via the internet right now is the single greatest tool. Okay, before that, how did people get information? Well, we've had libraries scattered all over the world, but if you wanted to get something that wasn't in your local library, you had to make a request. Okay, go back further in time. Go back to a time before we had a mail system. Now you were you were limited to the information in your region that was in a library. Keep going back further and further, and as you see the distance of time stretches out, the accessibility of information is also much more limited. Okay, why is this important? Well, we have at our disposal the ability to knit together the patchwork of actual events. That is the most succinct way of saying the truth. The truth can be very simple to understand from a definition standpoint. The truth is what has actually happened and what is actually happening. I won't go into a diatribe right now regarding the importance of truth, as you know that is the primary principle by which I live, and we can extrapolate that on another time. For now, suffice to say, the truth is the single most important thing, as it will lead to more appropriate thoughts, emotions, and actions transpiring if you know what actually happened. Okay, so we now live in an era a time when we have access to all the information. I understand not everything that is published is true. That is why we use such systems known as the Trivium to determine what is true and false. Regardless, the information is present. So, if there was ever going to be a moment of potentiality for change or progress, whether it be good or bad, in the course of human history, the moment when the information is most readily available, which is now because of the internet, would suggest that is the greatest likelihood. But what are we doing with this opportunity? How many people are actually using this tool in an advantageous way? Well, you can just look at what's popular, and by popular, I literally just mean what receives the most attention or views or likes, etc. And you're going to see it's drivel. The masses are not concerned, much less that much aware of what is actually transpiring. That is the truth. Why is this important? Well, if we have been bestowed the greatest tool ever, the ability to access all information so that we can make better decisions and lead to improvements and not allow ourselves to become enslaved or controlled by other people, well, then we can have the life we've always wanted. What is that life? Well, I'm going to sum it up for everyone. It's sovereignty, it's freedom, it's liberty. Obviously, by living under the moral code of what I call cosmic gravity, which is natural law. But at the end of the day, we have the ability within our grasp. We're there. All the information that's ever been put out has been collated, uploaded, and all you have to do is pull out your phone, which I'm recording on right now, and at a couple scrolls, you can have anything ever recorded. How phenomenal is that? We need to be making better use of that, and I say that not only for our own betterment, but also to not do it is at our own detriment. As we see the events that are currently transpiring in this post-COVID world, it is clear those with the better information, those with the willingness to input, this is the first step of the Trivium. We got knowledge, analysis, and wisdom. Those willing to input the information, download the information, then synthesize, analyze, step 2, and then third, create actions based on that information. Those are the ones that are going to control everything, and that includes your thoughts and therefore your actions. So, this is a call to action for more people to make use of the single greatest resource. And by all means, I love books. I highly recommend them. But this is going to take work. It actually takes work to begin work. As I mentioned in a previous video, I had to bring myself to a point in life where I was like, I'm not real happy with the actions I'm doing. I was by no means an alcoholic, but I said, this just isn't serving me. So I quit drinking, quit partying, and the part of my brain that had been overstimulated kind of got to resettle, rebuilt some good neurological connections, and then I started to read. And then I got hooked on reading, I got hooked on knowledge, and it is such a positive feedback loop to get addicted to knowledge, because not only is it engaging in and of itself, but what you end up learning is beyond description in terms of how your body will resonate with that information on a vibratory level. So, I'm not here to plead with people. The masses will do as they will, and they will be ushered and shepherded along by those with the better information and the greater willingness to act upon that information. And we can see who's got that now. We can see who's winning that battle now. If only we could unify in our understanding and our desire for liberty, then what we would call the light side would have a better chance at defeating the unification of evil right now. And where does that start? That starts with taking in more information. So please, after you finish watching this video, continue to use this tool, internet, which I argue could be the greatest tool we've ever had access to, because it can allow you to learn about any other tool you think is better. Oh, the invention of the wheel. Well, let's say whenever the wheel was made, someone on the other side of the earth could immediately download the schematics via the internet. That would make the internet possibly a more important tool because of the dissemination of the information. It is incumbent on us to continue to learn and spread the truth so that we can have, a much better time here. So, go get a book or download one.